Hello students and welcome to this first explanation to traditional and ABC costing. This is a question called Ching Chong Cha and I want us to look at this one. It's quite interesting. It contains three products. As I've said before, when we need to allocate overheads to products, obviously we need more than one product or department because otherwise you would just allocate all the overheads to that one department that exists. So in this instance, we have three products, pretty neat. So let's read together. It says Ching Chong Cha Limited uses the traditional approach to allocate overheads to products that are sold. These products are called Ching, Chong, and Cha. So you will see in the first table, you have collected some data and there you will find the overhead as well as the cost driver and the rand value. So we have some setup costs, which is driven by the number of setups and it is 100,000 rand worth of setup cost. We have some delivery cost. The cost driver there is the number of deliveries and then it's 25,000 rand. Then you will see quality control cost. It's the number of quality checks that drives this overhead, 30,000. And then we have indirect labor. The indirect labor will carry this cost or drive this cost, and that's a total of 50,000. So the first problem that I have with this table is that it does not indicate a total. So I am just going to change this to red, and I want to insert another line, and I just need us to add up the total here. So I want to know the total to the rand values that we have listed here, because it's very important if we want to do our calculation in terms of traditional costing. So if I add those up, it seems to me like 125,000 plus another 30,000 plus another 50,000. I see it's about 205,000 rand that we have there. I'm just going to double check on my calculator, ensure that it is correct. Yes, 205,000. So typically you will be doing this with a pencil or adding up to make sure that you have a total. Right, then they have broken down for us the activities or the cost drivers and how they relate to each product. So for the number of setups, there's 170 and 30 for the three different products. For the number of deliveries, there is 100, 150, and 150. The quality checks is 75, 40, and 35. The indirect labor hours was 25, 40, and 55. And then the number of units that were produced is 1,000, 2,000, and another 2,000. All right, so then I am also going to add a total column here. Again, they did not give you the totals. They are trying to catch you out. So you need to add up and have an answer to the total for the cost drivers and the way they have been allocated. So it's 100, 170 plus 30. That should give you a total of 200 setups. 150 and 150 is 300, so another 100 should give you 400 deliveries. If we look at this one, we have 75 plus 35 plus 40. That gives you 150 quality checks. Then we have our indirect labor hours. 25 plus 40 plus 55 gives us 120. And then the number of units produced should be 5,000 units. Again, this is not given, but I am calculating it because this will definitely help me out later when I need to do my calculations. So this is the first step. Once you see a question, make sure that you have calculated totals or that totals have been given. Sometimes they do give totals, but sometimes they don't. I picked this question to just bring it under your attention that if it is not given, it's an important calculation to do. Then, in applying the traditional costing method, Ching Chong Cha uses the number of units as the allocation basis. So in the required part, and this was a question 2 from an old paper, so I'm just going to call it A and B for this purpose because I took out the question number so that we can use it as the first question. In A, they say, assume that Ching Chong Cha Limited currently applies the traditional method of overhead allocation. Calculate the total overheads to be allocated to each of the products if the number of units produced is the cost driver. So what do we know about the traditional costing? Well, the first thing we know is that it is a single cost driver. So I am going to just use color, and I am going to make the traditional costing. Let's highlight that one in yellow. So it is traditional costing. It has a single cost driver, and this is the cost driver. What else will I need to calculate my my traditional method? I will need to have the total overheads. I need this information in order to do the traditional method. I have shared with you on a Vutela. I just want to look for it. I have a template somewhere. Have I now not saved it? I'm sure I have. Oh, there we go. All right, so there is the template that we are using. I have shared this on Vutela. So I'm just going to copy this template, and it has, please note, it has one sheet that relates to traditional costing. It has another sheet that relates to ABC costing. But required number A only asks us to do traditional costing. So I am going to open a new sheet, which will become our memo for Ching Chong Cha. So I have divided traditional costing into two steps. You will observe that the first step says you need to calculate the rate. All right, so we use the formula as stated in the slideshow. You take the total overheads and you divide it by the total cost driver. If I go back to my question, I already have the total overheads. It's 205,000, and of the cost driver, I know it's 5,000. So I'm just going back to my memo to fill it out. So it is 205,000 Rand. The Rand value is always at the top, and then I'm going to divide by the total cost driver. Again, the total cost driver here, 5,000. Righty. So if I do that calculation, 205,000 divided by 5,000, my answer is the rate is 41 Rand per, and now it's per the cost driver because you've divided by the cost driver. So in this instance, it is per unit because the cost driver is the units produced. In step 2, I have told you that you need to multiply your answer in step 1, which is now the 41 Rand. You need to multiply that by the cost driver for each product. So we have 3 products. We have Ching, we have Chong, we have Cha. And then, of course, we have the rate. The same rate will be used for every one of these, 41, 41, 41. Now we need to go and look at the cost driver for that specific product that is given in the question. If I go back to my cost driver, it is 1,000 for Ching, 2,000 for Chong, 2,000 for Cha. So I'm going back and I'm saying it's 1,000 and it is 2,000 and it is 2,000. And now I will multiply just to get to the total overheads allocated. In other words, I am going to say 41 Rand times 1,000, and then 41 times 2,000, and again 41 times 2,000. If ever this Excel will cooperate, there we go. So There you have answered number A, because we now know that you have a rate, it's 41 Rand per unit produced. And in step 2, you have multiplied your rate by the cost driver for each product. So for Ching, overheads allocated to Ching, 41,000. Overheads allocated to Chong, 82,000, and to Cha also 82,000 Rand. So that was the traditional costing part. Let's look at required number B. In required number B, and now I'm just going to delete the yellow because we will no longer need it. No color. All right, now we are at number B, and it says apply activity-based costing and calculate the overheads. And it says per unit. You are not required to do this, only overheads in total for Ching, Chong, and Cha. So you want to know for Ching, Chong, and Cha, what are the overheads to be allocated to each product if we use a different mathematical approach. So what is the mathematical approach in ABC costing? It is that each type of overhead will have its own cost driver calculation, and then we will allocate it based on that rate to the products. Again, I have set up the template. Going back to the template, this is what it will look like. Again, this might be a bit abstract, so that's why I am explaining it. I'm just copying the the template in here so that we can start with cost driver calculations. We can now adapt the template by saying it's not product 1, it's called Ching, and product 2 is Chong, product 3 is Cha. And it has been indicated here that the specific overhead in Rand, so the rate is calculated by taking the specific overhead in Rand and divided in it by the total of the specific cost driver. So the first thing I want to do is I want to fill out my overheads. If I go back to the question, what overheads do I have? I have setup cost, delivery cost, quality cost. So let's go and fill it out. It is set up cost, something there was quality cost. The second one was delivery cost and indirect labor. And indirect labor. All right, so I first list all of my overheads. And now I need to do a rate calculation for each overhead by following this formula. The specific overhead divided by the total of the specific cost driver. So again, if I were to now approach this in color, I'm going to say, if I am busy with the setup costs, I am going to use that 100,000. Let's make that one, for example, green, and that will go with this information relating to setup costs, because setup costs are the cost driver to that specific overhead type. Then if we look at delivery cost, I will use this 25,000. I'm going to make that a different color. Let's color that in purple. And then the number of deliveries, in other words, this line item will relate to that delivery cost. Then we have the control cost, the quality control cost. So this 30,000 I will need. I am going to highlight that one in, let's make it blue. And then the quality checks will go with that one. So I'm going to highlight that one in blue as well, because that is the cost driver. Then we are still left with indirect labor, which is 50,000 Rand. And now I'm going to highlight this one in yellow, and the indirect labor hours will relate to it. So I'm also going to put that line item in the same color. So now you can see I am not working currently with this total. This 205 that we've added up only is used in traditional costing. So now I'm going to say I need to go and calculate for setup cost, and setup costs are in the green. Going back to my answer, I'm going to say I need to take the 100,000 and I need to divide it by the total of the specific cost driver. So there's my 100,000. What is the total of the specific cost driver? It's 200. And I'm divided by 200. Now the answer for the rate there should be 100,000 divided by 200. That gives us 500 Rand. I'm going to copy that 500 Rand that I've calculated under each of my products. And now I need to go and multiply it by the cost driver for that product in that color. So if I look at the green, Ching is 100, Chong is 70, Cha is 30. So I am going to take the rate. For Ching, I'm going to multiply by 100. For Cha, I am going to multiply by 70. For Chong, and for Cha, I'm going to multiply by 30. And the answers there should be 50,000. 500 times 70. I'm just calculating it on my calculator so that I don't use formulas that will cause confusion on Excel. 35,000 Rand total there. And then 500 times 30 gives me 15,000 Rand. Moving on to the delivery cost. If I go back to my question, the delivery cost was in the purple, and now I'm going to have to take the 25,000 Rand and I'm going to have to divide it by the total of that specific cost driver, which is 400. On my memo, I will now say 25,000 Rand divided by 400, and that gives me a rate of 62 Rand and 50 cents. This rate is now basically copy and pasted in under each of the products. And then I am multiplying it by the cost driver of delivery cost for each product. Going back to my question, I can see for deliveries, for Ting, it's 100. For Cha, it's 150, and for Chong, it's also 150. Going back to my memo, I am going to multiply. So I multiply by 100, I multiply by 150, and I multiply by 150. If I do this calculation, I should get 6 to 50. 62.5 times 150 is 9,375. Right, moving on to your quality cost overhead. If I look at my question, for the quality cost, it is 30,000 Rand, and the total of the cost driver there is 150. So I'm going to take the 30,000 Rand, which is specifically for that overhead, and I'm going to divide it by the total of the cost driver, 150. The answer to the rate there is 200 Rand. I'm going to take the 200, copy it in under each product. Now I need to go and find the cost driver for multiplication in terms of delivery cost for each of the products. If I go to delivery cost in terms of the cost driver, I see that there is 75, 40, and 35 for the products respectively. Going back, I need to multiply. So I say 200 times 75. 200 times 40 and 200 times 35. If I type that into my calculator, I get 15,000 in the first instance. In the second instance, for product Chong, I get to an answer of 8,000. And for Cha, I get to an answer of 7,000. Whoop whoop. Then we are on direct labor, which is then our last calculation. As you can see, it is ABC costing calculations are not difficult. They are just extensive. There's a lot of things to do to fill out your block. But it's not hard. You just need to know where to start. If you use the template, you know where to start. And then you need to continuously multiply by that specific cost driver for the specific product. If I look at indirect labor, the total indirect labor in yellow is 50,000. The total cost driver is 120. Going back, I'm going to say that's 50,000 divided by 120. And that gives us 416.67. Just want to double check. Yes, it was 120. Then we need to copy that under each of the products. 416.67. Again, in these instances, you need to have proper rounding instructions. If there are no rounding instructions and you are doing a online test, then you know that there is no rounding, that it works out precisely, for example, with the 200 or the 500 Rand. Right, I need to go back and find this indirect labor cost driver for each product. So going back to my question, I find that it is 25, 40, and 55 for the 3 products respectively. Going back to my memo, I am now multiplying 25, I am multiplying by 40, and multiplying by 55. Then if I type that into my calculator, I get to 1041.75 for product Chong. 416.67 times 40 gives me 16,666.8. I just want to double check, make sure my answer is correct in the first instance. It should be 1041. I missed a 6 in the first instance. I beg your pardon. Then for the last product, 416.67 times 55, that gives us a total of 22,916.85. All that is left to do is to get to a total for the products, total overheads allocated. And I will now just add up all the totals. So for Ching, I'm going to say it's 50,000 plus 6,250 plus 15,000 plus 10,416.75. For Chong, it's going to be 35,000. Add to that 9,375, add to that 8,000, and add to that 16,666.8. For Cha, it's going to be the 15,000 plus the 9,375, add the 7,000, and add the 22,916.85. So in total, you will allocate 81,666 and 75 cents to Ching. You will allocate 69,041 Rand and 80 cents to Chong, and 54,291 and 85 cents to Cha. I hope that you have enjoyed this question. I think it was quite interesting, especially with having traditional and ABC costing together with three products. Again, you need to keep your mind together. It's really not as difficult. You just need to apply the necessary steps. Also, please watch the video for the second question. That one should also be very helpful in helping you to establish a proper understanding. Goodbye.